everyone. So today we will be discussing part 2 of planning for success. So for those of you who joined me on my last broadcast, you know that I shared with you also the importance of having a dream wall and a vision board, and also then the importance of goal setting. And we specifically focused on the SMART acronym as far as our goals are concerned. So as part of goal setting, we need to make sure that our goals are specific, that they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and also they're time bound. So for those of you who didn't attend that specific broadcast with me, please just go onto our YouTube channel. So all our live broadcasts are being made available on our YouTube channel. So you're welcome to check it out there. Awesome. And I did say to you also in my last session that I was going to just show you my dream wall. I'm editing my current dream wall. So yes, I just wanted to share that with you. And I hope you'll be able to get a good view of that. So I'm going to move a little bit back here. So as you can see, this is my dream wall. And I'm busy updating it at the moment. So very exciting for me. Once again, it's always exciting to work on my dream wall and you know, just start putting out the new vision and the new goals and the new dreams and everything out there. Okay, so I think let's get straight into today's session. So as part of our planning for success part 2, today we're going to be talking about the importance of having an action plan in place, because I believe that is very, very important. So the importance of having an action plan in place. And I'm sure many of you have heard the saying that a goal without a plan is then just a wish. So it's important for us to make sure that we put a clear action plan in place that will be able to help us actually achieve those goals that we've set out in the beginning of our journey. Okay, so the question today is, okay, Candice, if an action plan is so important, an action plan. So I want to say to you is that it's important for you to be specific. So as you get started with your action plan, it's important that you need to be specific about what you want to do. Be sure about what your goals are. And then as I mentioned to you before, clarity is power. So it's important to make sure that we are clear about our goals. And once we are clear about what we want to do, the next step then is to write those goals down. So this is how you're going to start your action plan. So what you're going to do is, from the multiple goals that you've started working on after our last session, now you need to make sure that you now choose the top 3 goals that you are going to be focusing on as far as those multiple goals are concerned. So for now, as part of putting your action plan together, I only want you to focus on the top 3. So that's what I want you to focus on. The top 3 goals that are the most important to you in your life today. So you write that down. And the reason why we want to write our goals down is because once we write the goal down, it actually becomes a decision that we've made, that this is our intention, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we expect. We expect this thing to come to pass. So it's important for us to then make sure that we go through the action of actually writing it down. So when we tend to expect that particular goal, now we start attracting the right people, the right resources, the right circumstances. We then start attracting into our lives that's going to help us achieve that goal. And that's amazing. I don't know how it works, but that's how it works. You know, the Bible also teaches us that we must write the vision down. And if the Bible teaches us that we need to write it down, you know, that tells me that it's a very important task that we need to do. And in writing the vision down, it now becomes clearer, we understand it, and of course now we can run with it, whatever that vision is, whatever that goal is. So it is important for us to make sure that we write all our goals down. And once you've written your goals down, the next step as part of creating your action plan is actually to put in place deadlines as well as sub-deadlines for these goals that you now want to achieve. So remember, I said you're only going to start with 3 at a time, the 3 that are the most important to you at this time. And what I'm going to be talking about in terms of the next steps, I'm then referring to these specific 3 that you have selected. Okay, so those are the goals that you then put down. I just want to have a look at my one device here. Awesome. So I see some more of you have joined me. Maria, I see you there. Verona, thank you so Remember, once again, if you've got any comments or questions, please do leave it for me in the chat box. And, I'll make sure that I get to address that just at the end of my session today. Awesome. So I'll have a look at that later. Okay, so as I said, step 2 of our action plan is then to put deadlines in place as well as sub-deadlines for these goals. So it's important for us to have a target time, very important for us to have a target time, because we need to know what we are working towards. If we don't put timelines in place, if we don't have a target time, then we don't know what we're working towards. Also, this will help us to understand how much of income do we have to generate for that particular period in order to realize that dream, or how much do we have to invest for that particular period in order to realize the dream, because most of our dreams will require some sort of financial assistance. So that's why it's important for us, once we are clear about those top 3 goals, we also need to know by when do we want to achieve that particular goal, so that we obviously know what type of income we need to generate in order to achieve that goal. So that becomes very, very important. And then as part of step 3, now what I want you to do as part of step 3, and I want you to list all the tasks that are required in order to achieve these goals. So take your time, think of everything that you need to do in order to achieve these top goals that you have just written down. So make a list of everything. So identify the obstacles that you will possibly encounter in terms of reaching these goals. Also think of how, when I say reaching the goals, I mean the obstacles that you will encounter that you will overcome, of course, in order to achieve your goals. So I think that's important. These obstacles will come, but we will overcome them. Why? Because we are focused on achieving our goals. We are focused on moving those goals forward. But it's important for us to identify early, as part of our action plan, we need to identify early in this process what are the potential obstacles that we will possibly encounter. Okay, and then also you will need to think of all the knowledge, all the information, all the resources, all the skills that you will possibly need in order to achieve these goals. So you start writing these things down, you start working through all of these things. And maybe for some of the goals, you might not necessarily have the right skill set or the right level of knowledge today, but that's okay. So those are also the things that you then add to your list, because why you need to obtain that particular information or knowledge or training or whatever it is that you need. But it's important to know what these things are. So you are now just thinking of all the things that you need that in order to achieve this goal. And then also think of the people's help and assistance and cooperation that you will need in order to achieve your goal. So also start making a list of those individuals, and maybe in some cases there might be specific companies that you would maybe need to also work with or consult with or engage. So make sure that as part of this goal setting and action plan experience, make sure that you also identify all the people's help that you are going to need in order to achieve your goals. So the more comprehensive your list is, the more motivated you will become to achieve that those tasks, and also the more intense your desire will become to achieve those tasks and ultimately achieve your goals. And the more comprehensive your list, the more you will also start believing that it is possible to actually achieve those tasks that you've set out, those goals that you've set out. So that's important. So it's important for us to make sure then that we list all of these tasks. And then once you've now completed step 3, now it's important to make sure that you take all of these tasks and you then put it into a plan. And you organize that plan by priority and sequence. Okay, so you combine all of these tasks that you've listed. You combine all of these tasks into a plan, and you then put it, you organize it by priority and sequence. So priority basically means what are the most important tasks versus the less important tasks. And that's what you need to organize. So you need to start by putting the most important on top, and then you start working your way down to the less important. And then also by sequence. So when you organize it by sequence, what that also means is that now you also need to identify what you need to do first before you are able then to achieve the next task. So that's what you do. You basically put it into order, you put it into a specific sequence so that you are able to know what needs to be done first before you are able to then move on to that next task. So that becomes very, very important. So it's important for us to make sure that we have a detailed list that we put in place. And remember that as you are going to be revising and working through this list, there will be times when you will add new items to this list, and that's okay, because that's the beauty of putting an action plan together. Because as we start working on other items, more ideas will come, more information will come, and then all you do is you just make sure that you adapt your action plan accordingly, but you basically use the same systematic approach in order to achieve your goals. And I think it's important to know that there, there are some people in life today that achieve their goals and some people don't. And what is the reason for that? And I really believe that the reason for that is because successful people have a systematic approach to goal setting and to goal achievement, and how we actually go about executing on that. That is why we tend to achieve our goals, at a better rate compared to some other individuals out there. So I think that's the important thing, is that we need to make sure that we've got this systematic approach that we follow. And then also I want to share with you that as you are now combining your tasks into a plan, and I'm sure some of you have heard of the 80-20 rule. Now, the 80-20 rule becomes very important to us as planners. Why? Because it says that 80% of the results that will come from 20% of the activities that you do. Can you believe that? So that's what we're working towards, is that we want to be in a position where 80% of the results come from 20% of the activities that we do. And this is possible. This is possible. And I'll share with you more as we go along. And then the 20-80 rule, and some of you may have heard of the 20-80 rule as well. And the 20-80 rule says that the first 20% that you spend of your time planning your goals and organizing it will be worth 80% of the time and effort required to achieve that goal. So I'll just say that again. So 20% of the time you spend planning your goals and organizing it will be worth 80% of the time and effort required to achieve that goal. Why? Because we've got focus, we've got direction, we know what we are working towards, and that is why it becomes easier for us to execute on those tasks and start seeing greater results, because we know exactly what we are working towards. We've put in the time in the beginning to make sure that we are putting and organizing our goals and our plans, and that is why we're able to successfully move them forward. And as part of step 5, so now that you've got a comprehensive list in place, now it's important to make sure that you schedule it into a comprehensive plan. Okay, so what I mean by that is that it's important for you to plan each day, to plan each week, and to plan each month. So that becomes very important. And how do we do that? So each month you will plan at the beginning of the month. Each week you will plan on the weekend prior to that particular week. And then of course each day you will then plan the night before. So that becomes very important, so that when you step into the next day, you know exactly what it is that you need to execute on. So just remember that. So we are trying to also get the 20-80 rule to work here for us, which says that 20% of the time that we spend planning our goals and organizing it will bring about 80% of the time and effort required to achieve that particular goal. So that then is our step 5. So the more detailed you are with regards to your planning, you will see that the less time you will actually need to spend on achieving it. Why? Because you are detailed and you are thorough about the information that you've put together, and you know exactly what you need to work through. So each minute spent on planning, so this is what they say. They say each minute spent on planning saves 10 minutes on execution. So planning becomes very, very important in order for us to achieve our goals. So ladies and gentlemen, and remember that this is a process. So you're going to be starting, as I said to you, you're going to be starting with the priorities. You're going to be starting with the sequencing. And as you work through those various priorities, now you will move on to the next one. So how do we organize our priorities per day or per week or per month? Once again, we have to go back and we need to ask ourselves, what is the most important priority that I can do on my list that's going to be the most valuable of my time? And that's important. So we need to focus on items that are causing us to be productive so that we can start seeing return on the items that we are focusing on. And once you've worked through your priorities, now, of course, now you can move on and tackle all of the other items that you have listed as part of that comprehensive list and plan that you've put together. But remember, how we prioritize is that we ask ourselves, what is the most important item that I have to deliver on today that's going to be the most valuable of my time? And that's how we work through it. So now that you've got your action plan in place, the next step is then for you to take action. So no action, no results. And remember that we keep adjusting our plan as we go along, and we keep adding, we keep revising it, and we make sure that we check in on a regular basis with our plan to see how we're tracking on this comprehensive list that you have put together. It's important to make sure that you now start working through those priorities until you get to a place where you have completed all of those tasks that are required for the 3 main goals that you selected in the beginning. And then once those 3 goals have been achieved, now you go on to the next 3 goals. And that's how you work yourself forward, and you continue applying the systematic approach to action, putting your action plan in place, and then of course start executing and achieving, and then of course you move on to the next set of goals that you now have in place. And that's really, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like a very a simple approach to apply, and it is simple if we put in the effort to actually do it, and then we'll start seeing some greater results coming about. So that's awesome. So the important thing for us is that we need our most important task of where we are today. And we spoke about this in our goal planning session that we did previously. So the most important part of what we really want to do is that we want to really understand where we are today and where we want to be. And what is the gap that needs to be filled in order for us to achieve where we want to be in the future, what that future goal looks like. And that is where the action plan then plays a significant role in helping us to get to that final destination. And that's how we continue working ourselves forward towards that goal. So in our next session of Planning for Success, I will be elaborating more on the 7 habits of highly effective people. And some of you may have also heard or seen this book by Stephen Covey. So this book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I have read a summarized version of the book and before, so I've been exposed to a summarized version of the book, a shorter version of the book, if I can say that. So I've now decided that I'm actually going to spend time working through the entire book. Why? Because I want to become more effective in terms of what I'm doing. Because obviously, as we continue moving our goals forward, you know, we then have a responsibility to also make sure that we continue upskilling ourselves so that we can become highly effective people, and we are ultimately able to deliver and achieve the success that we need. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on. So I will be sharing some of my insights with you as I'm going to be spending time working through it. And then, of course, I'll be coming onto our reflections broadcast, and I'll be sharing some of those insights and learnings with you so that you are then also able to go out and actually apply that to your lives today. So that really covers us for today in terms of how to create an action plan. And if you've got any questions for me, any comments, please do connect with me now. So I'm just going to have a look and see if there are any comments. So awesome. Farhana's just said, thank you for sharing. Awesome. My pleasure, Farhana. And I'm glad you enjoyed that session. So for those of you, if there are any other comments, please do let me know. I know there's normally a little bit of a delay, um, so I might not necessarily be able to see all of your comments straight immediately. But what will happen is I will then make sure that I also spend time working through your comments later on, and then I'd be able to get back to you. So awesome. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me today, for joining me on reflection. So, okay, so Farana says this is a first time joining. Awesome, for Farana. So I think maybe for those of you, this is your first time joining, just to share with you really why I started the reflections broadcast. So the reason why I really started it is because as a woman in business, I was really looking for a platform that I could possibly possibly tap into, where I'm able to get insights, on business, where I'm able to get insights on, investment strategies. I'm able to get insights on health and, beauty and mental wellness and spiritual growth and all these wonderful things that are important to us as women. So I was really looking for that one platform that I could possibly tap into, and I couldn't find it. And I then decided that, okay, I was going to put that platform in place. So I started my reflections broadcast now during this lockdown period. I thought it's a great time to actually start it. And so there's various facets as part of reflections. So I do the occasional sharing on a Friday at 1 o'clock. So you can tune in every Friday at 1 o'clock. There's always a different topic that's going to be covered. On certain sessions, I also invite amazing entrepreneurs that are doing amazing work. So I've had the opportunity last week to interview the phenomenal Nobukosi. I had Zola Tekiso with me. And in my next week's session of reflections, I am going to be interviewing Nsiki Makize, and some of you may have heard of her. So she was the second princess from South Africa, I believe in 2015. And today, she's also an entrepreneur. She's also a social entrepreneur. She's also a speaker. She's also a mentor. She's an author. And I'm going to be interviewing her next week. And we're going to be talking about branding you. So we also believe that topic is very relevant and very important, for us as entrepreneurs. And whatever area you are in today, you may, and we always branding ourselves. So everything that we're doing always comes back to branding. So whether you are in business today, whether you've got a consulting company, whether you are a trainer, a coach, a speaker, whatever it is that you are doing today, it's important for us to understand, some crucial elements about branding so that we can become more successful